Collins, to the NFL. A lot of talk about the New York Giants, what they're going to do at 5 in the draft. There's speculation Arvell Reese could drop from 2 to 5. Jets were looking at him. And then there's a lot of talk about Sonny Styles, the linebacker. Yeah. But Caleb Downs is the one that everybody's targeting. Of course, Baltimore with Harbaugh got Kyle Hamilton at 14. He is an integral piece to the defense. Would they consider Caleb Downs? Here's Joe Shane on the draft.
That wouldn't be out of the question. I mean, those are really good football players. And, those are the conversations we're having right now. Like, hey, we like all these guys, but you got to pick one. And, a couple of them are going to be there. So we're working on stacking that right now. But you speak of Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, like, talk about talented defense. We've watched a lot of Ohio State defensive film the last couple of months. A lot of good football players from top to bottom on that defense, and those are two of the key players on that defense that we looked at. So certainly guys that we've talked a lot about and think very highly of.
I am a big believer the Giants should trade down more than any team in the draft.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tennessee should trade down. If Jeremiah Love is there, get Cam Ward help. I don't think Arizona should trade down. My takeaway, if Jeremiah Love is there or David Bailey is there, I mean, when's the last time Arizona drafted a great pass rusher? But the Giants should trade down because the Giants are about 3-4 really good players away from winning a division. Right tackle, got to get a corner, like another safety. I would get another back. More than any team, and you could say the Browns could trade, but they need a receiver. And Carnell Tate's going to be available from Ohio State, so I would just take him. Ooh. The Giants, more than any team in the top 10, like Kansas City, shouldn't trade down. If that right tackle's available, go get him. Bengals shouldn't trade down. Caleb Downs in state, if he's there, their defense on the back end's atrocious. The Giants don't need the 5th pick. They need 2 more picks. They need another 3rd and a 5th.
You think they'll take Downs at 5? I think that's a little rich.
I don't think they will. I think if Sonny Styles is available, it's very Harbaugh. It's a tough interior backer. He can be kind of, he's just one of these guys that's a physical freak, but he's not going to change outcomes. What's going to change outcomes is they shored up their kind of tight end situation in free agency. Yeah. Right tackle, you got to get better on the back end of the defense. Scattaboo and another back. You got to help Jackson Dart. That's what you got to do. You got to make life easy for Jackson Dart. Keep him out of the blue tent.
They get the receiver back, the star receiver whose name is
Neighbors.
Neighbors is coming back. I cannot envision taking a safety at 5. Again, Downs is exceptional. Could be one of the best players in the draft, but value at 5? I don't see it.
Look, if you genuinely believe a guy is one of the top prospects in this draft class, and you think he's outstanding and will be a difference maker on defense, then you take him. This whole notion that you're only allowed to pick certain kinds of players at certain spots in the draft order, I reject that as loudly and firmly as I possibly can. That's just not how the world operates, and it's certainly not how the NFL operates. But in terms of trading down and all that maneuvering, I'm just so relieved that the draft is finally next week. I'm pretty sure it's actually next week. Almost positive. Look, I know I've said this many times before, but I'm very honest about how I feel about these things. And I share those feelings when they come up. Right now, I just can't wait for the draft to arrive so we can finally break down what actually happened. It's the same way I feel about the Super Bowl. When you have 2 weeks leading up to it, we just keep talking and talking and talking about it. I always hit a breaking point by the middle of that second week. I'm like, the Super Bowl is in a few days, let's just play it already. Let's play it, then we'll talk about it. Then I'm way more inclined to keep discussing it after the fact. But the constant predicting, over and over again, that's the problem. You don't know what's going to be available. You don't know who's going to be on the board in that moment. So yeah. And the issue is especially tricky because I feel more confident about what the Raiders and Titans might do. But is it possible that the Jets or the Cardinals make a move that leaves you just thinking, what the heck are you doing right now? It wouldn't surprise me at all if they do something where your only reaction is, what? Like, why did the Jets just take Jeremiah Love? You're sitting there saying, wait, what? Why did you just do that? What are you thinking right now? So yeah. I just don't know. I do think the Giants' defense obviously needs to be significantly better. But I would be concerned with the idea that their main offensive core is Jackson Dart, Scattaboo, and Malik Neighbors. I think Skitabu is the perfect example. If we're talking about that Sonic and Knuckles dynamic like what the Lions had, he's a Knuckles, not a Sonic. Skitabu is a supporting character. He's not the lead. Okay? I think he was a tremendous energizer. Him and Jackson Dart brought so much energy. Energy that I loved and really appreciated. Just from a pure entertainment standpoint, it was fun to watch. It was fun to be around. But when Colin is talking about the Giants trying to win the division and all of that, you're going to need attention to detail. It's not just about energy. It's not just about energy. It's about being focused. About understanding the nuances and complexities of the game. It's about making smart decisions and executing at the highest level. It's not simply about putting your head down and running as fast and as hard as you can, okay? And that's something this offense needs to get better at. Again, I love these guys. I'm not saying they're doing this with the 5th overall pick. But I just need them to add more high IQ players on offense. This is actually why I love Jeremiah Love so much, because I think he brings that. I think he's that guy. Combined with a physical skill set that's just amazing. Same thing with Sadiq. So ironically, those are the two offensive players I'm highest on. But obviously, it feels like the Giants will go, and should go, defensive with their pick, especially unless they trade back and do some of the things Colin is talking about. But if they're picking at 5, then you're thinking defense, which I think goes a pretty long way. Because if you're just looking strictly at this division right now, you have to be thinking, Dak is getting a little older. That timeline is winding down. Jalen Hurts, there's obviously controversy in Philly. What's going on with Jalen? Is he the long-term quarterback? Is he not? Is he a good quarterback? Is he bad? Is he overrated? What's he doing? He doesn't want to run as much anymore. What's the story there? And then in Washington, you've got Jaden Daniels, who hasn't been able to stay healthy. Hasn't played a full season yet. Even as a rookie, he was banged up. Even the games he played, he either got knocked out of or clearly wasn't right. Clearly wasn't healthy. So if you build a disruptive defense in the NFC East, that's going to go an increase. Edibly long way. An incredibly long way. You just need a functional offense, let alone an elite one. So yeah, I do think, weirdly enough, there's a case to be made. Now, I'm normally a big believer that when you have a young quarterback, you go all in on supporting him. All in. All in. All in. I'll sacrifice a defense because I want to get to the bottom of who my quarterback really is. I want to give him every possible tool so I can evaluate him under the best circumstances. Even if it's not sustainable long term, I want to be able to say, this is what this quarterback looks like when we have the best around him. I also think it helps develop that quarterback because he'll be able to work on things, make certain throws that, unless he had elite talent around him, he wouldn't normally be able to attempt. So I think it also helps speed up the developmental process. And then, as you start to have to pay him and lose players, you're setting him up, the young quarterback, obviously Jackson Dart in this scenario, to be more resilient, to understand the game better. And also, when he gets younger receivers or less experienced players, he now knows what he wants because he's already done it with great players. He can say, this is what I need you to do. He's now able to guide younger, less talented players in a way that sets them up to succeed. When the situation is reversed, when you're younger yourself, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever's going on around you. So I am a firm believer in that approach. But because of the way Jackson Dart plays, and he is a little reckless, and he is a little wild, which again, I appreciate, I respect, and I want to see him evolve, but still, you could make the argument that the more they go all in on defense, the more it adds a bit of a safety net for him. It allows him to get his hand caught in the cookie jar once or twice, as long as he's not getting injured. When I say reckless, I don't mean blue tent type of stuff. I just mean in terms of style of play, because obviously I don't want to see him in the blue tent. I don't want to see anyone get injured. But I can make the argument that it's hard to judge Jackson Dart's progress in that regard because I haven't heard many good sound bites in that area that I've really liked. So it's hard to know when he reaches that point. The way he plays, the way he approaches the game, it's going to have to evolve and change. But if there's still resistance with all of that, and you're trying to win now, you're trying to get back on track, you're trying to fix this franchise, get them back on track for the first time in years, then yeah, going all in on defense makes a lot of sense. And that's where you then trust Harbaugh to say, all right, build a great defense, build this foundation, give us a strong safety net to deal with our young, somewhat immature quarterback who's going to need to learn as he goes along. And in a lot of ways, that's what the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson. But to get to the next level, like I said, everyone needs to mature on offense. Everyone needs to evolve. You need high IQ people. You need to get that on track if you really want to not only win the division but go beyond that. So I think the Giants are in a really interesting spot because they have the argument for having the highest draft pick in the NFL that coincides with the best position to actually make a true leap in the division. And in a competitive division at that. Obviously, I know the Cowboys have been a little up and down, but they're still always competitive. The Eagles, obviously multiple Super Bowls. It's going to be different because sure, the Saints could take a leap forward in their division, but that's kind of a mess. The Bengals? The Dolphins? What are we talking about here? Then you're looking at the Cowboys, the Rams. No, at that point we're already down to pick 13, 14, 15. So the Giants are picking 5th, right? Or excuse me, yeah, 5th. That's pretty interesting considering the belief of what the Giants could be. Especially because the Giants were a mess last year, but if you had this version of Jackson Dart starting week 1, and Malik Neighbors there the whole time, etc., you have to imagine that team is worth a couple more wins, 2 or 3 more wins. So I'd make the argument that even if you ran back the exact same team exactly as it is, this team is really much better than a 5th overall pick right now. Kind of how I feel about the Chiefs, although nowhere near as dramatic as it is for the Chiefs. So you could argue that the Giants are kind of artificially drafting higher than they should. So it's a really interesting spot where it's just like, If you do land this draft, if you stick the landing with this draft, and Harbaugh is the right hire, and there can be some maturity from Jackson Dart, you could be problematic. Even the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl in 2024, the Commanders gave them a run for their money. There was a moment when you were like, the Commanders could win this division. And you know, it was on the table. And they got to the NFC Championship game, obviously. And that was the year the Eagles were at their best and they won the Super Bowl. So if the Eagles are just not at their best version, and the Cowboys are doing Cowboys things, and the Commanders are still trying to figure it all out, then the door is certainly open. And again, if you're an Eagles fan, you can't even get mad, because in 2024, you weren't the number 1 overall seed. The Lions were, right? And the Commanders were in a position. They absolutely were in a position. I think if you ran it back, you're looking at a team that could be, with a healthy Malik, all of that, Skatabu also not getting injured, and a year 2 version of Jackson Dart and Harbaugh, just at the floor, I already see that as 7 wins. 7 wins. Again, you get the draft right, I don't know. You start flirting with an interesting range. And you can see a 9-7 Packers team getting into the playoffs. A 12-win 49ers team. A 12-win Rams team. The Bucks missed it by a game. The Ravens missed it by a game, obviously. But they would have gotten in with 9 wins if they had beaten the Steelers. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the floor is that the Giants would have to hit in order to get into the playoffs. Probably feels like we're shaping up to 10 or 11 wins. And the only way you kind of get in there with 9 is maybe a little bit of a unique situation. But in a lot of ways, 14, 12, and 12 was pretty unique in its own right. So yeah. They shouldn't be in a position to win the division. But if they get the draft right, knock it out of the park, and get some impact players, and there's maturity from Jackson Dart, and you're just healthier now, I absolutely, positively see the wild card. In a lot of ways, potentially there for the taking. But a lot of that will also depend on what type of coach Harbaugh is. And whether he's able to get this team in order. I honestly think that's actually a genuine if. I don't have my full support, 100% Harbaugh can do no wrong. That's not how I view Harbaugh at this moment in time. And as much as I'm a believer in Jackson Dart, like I said, some of the things I've heard him say, some of his sound bites since the season ended, haven't been my favorite. So I can't say with confidence that I know he's going to be a lot more mature this year. And when I say mature, I mean football maturity. I don't mean immature in terms of personality or that type of stuff. I mean strictly football maturity. He got by a lot on just his raw talent and his raw horsepower. And you have to evolve past that. You have to evolve past that. And it's not clear to me that the Giants have made that clear to him, or that he understands that. So yeah, the Giants are a fascinating team. They probably are in one of the better positions to really teeter where things either go spectacularly great, pretty much kind of like what we saw with the Commanders, where things went great, they got to the NFC Championship game. The following year, things didn't quite work out for them, and they were a bottom team in the NFL, right? So I almost see, obviously it was for different reasons, injuries and whatnot, but I honestly see the Giants currently at that crossroads where it's just like, wow, they could actually have a really awesome year and feel like, alright, we're back on track, let's go. We've got that momentum. We have so much to build off of for the next coming year. Or you're just kind of like, oh man, we're a 6 or 7 win team again. And I think a lot of it will come down to Harbaugh and Jackson Dart. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New York Giants? How do you think they should handle their draft, their 5th overall pick? Do you think they should trade down? Do you think they're going defense? And if so, who? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.